Egypt. Mudie is joining us from South Africa, and but from Maseru. Lovely. Welcome, welcome. I'm also assuming that we have someone joining from Durban too. Lovely. Welcome. From Western Cape, from Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have everyone with us today. Just a reintroduction to everyone who's joined in the call. My name is Maria Natalia Sekombe. I am an educator at African Leadership Academy, but I also serve as the coach to the student enterprise that will be running the session today, Earthflow. It is a pleasure to have you all. Thank you so much again for joining us. The team is excited to present today and to share what they've been working on with you today. Also, just making sure that everyone can see my screen. All right, so with the welcoming done, the team will introduce themselves to you. For now, I just wanted to do a little bit of an icebreaker. It's a bit of a fun one. So I'm hoping that this is something that we get to enjoy. You do not require your cameras to be on for this one, but you can unmute yourself if you're participating, if you wish to participate, but it should be a fun one. We are 34 people in the chat. Usually with this one, you would switch off your camera. So I'll turn off my camera as well. Once we turn off our camera, we will try to count from 1 to 30 without interjecting each other. So it's a bit of a fun exercise, and I'm interested to see how far we can go in the count. Obviously, it's hard to tell who's going to count, but if you go at the same time with someone, we'll have to start again. I don't know if those instructions were clear. I'll check if anyone has any questions.
No, please understand.
Sorry? Please come again. I didn't hear you.
No, sorry. I was just wondering how possible is that without interjecting when you don't know who's going to come next.
Exactly. It's gonna be a little funny. I've seen it work before, but I thought it might be something that can get us a little focused, but also relax us a little bit and have a little bit of a good laugh before we get into the session. So let's try it out and see if we can do it. So just for the sake of the call, I will start us off. And then you can literally unmute and then we'll see who goes 2, 3, 4, and how far we can make it. Okay, so the icebreaker is going to start now. It is a count off. And we should try, basically the objective is trying to interject with each other and try and reach the count till 30. Okay, here we go. 1,
2,
3,
4,
5.
we're
Yeah,
almost,
so I heard 2 5s. I guess we need to start over again.
yeah, let's start again. You see, so it is possible. It is possible. We made it to 5, which is good for about 35 people in the call. This is a good start. Okay. I don't have to start again, so anyone can start now.
1,
2,
Okay, let's start again.
No.
1,
2,
3, 4,
5.
uh,
oh no.
okay, let's see if we can do it. You can do it one more time. Let's see if we can at least make it to 7. Let's try 7.
1.
Those who counted must maintain their numbers.
Okay, I see strategy. Okay. 1,
2.
2,
Oh,
1,
That was too early.
No.
2,
3.
Oh,
5. 6.
7.
7.
oh no.
That was very close. Do you want to try one more time? Maybe we can make it to 10.
Let's maintain our numbers.
Yes, if we maintain the numbers, we can make it.
Mm.
Okay. I like the strategy.
1,
2.
Was that a 2 or 3?
No,
3,
that was so.
4,
5. 6.
6,
7,
8.
9. 10.
10.
10.
Close. We're close. Thank you everyone for participating. I'll turn my camera back on so you can see me. Welcome. So like I said, myself and the students who run the enterprise called Earthflow, we're based in Johannesburg, South Africa. The Academy, which is African Leadership Academy, is based in South Africa, in Johannesburg. And as you can see from our mission, African Leadership Academy seeks to transform Africa by basically developing a powerful network of young leaders who can accelerate the growth of the continent. So at the school, it's a 2-year program, and I'm an educator here. And part of the 2-year program, students engage in entrepreneurial leadership, which is a subject that I teach. And through the Entrepreneur Leadership Program, they also engage in a student enterprise program during their 2nd year, where they get to run student enterprises on campus. And Earthflow, who will be presenting and running this session today, are one of our many student enterprises on the campus. I will not go into details about the student enterprise, as they will take over and introduce themselves, their mission, and the work that they've been doing, and basically take us through this session today. Again, really excited that everyone who has shown up today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on a Monday evening. I know it's not easy. And I'm excited to see that we have people also joining from all parts of the continent, which is also amazing turnout for us. All right, so going forward, I will hand over to the Student Enterprise Earthflow so that they can start the presentation.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm glad a lot of people made it to our session. I hope our session is going to be beneficial, or we're going to offer any kind of new information. So thank you, Ms. Nat, for the introduction. I'll just quickly reintroduce ourselves. So we are Earthflow. Earthflow is an NGO under the SE program, or the Student Enterprise program of the African Leadership Academy. And as Ms. Nat just said, the African Leadership Academy is an academy located in Johannesburg, and its mission is to develop the next generation of African leaders. So my name is Ismail. I'm from Egypt, and I'm the general manager of Earthflow. So I'm supposed to kind of oversee the other departments that we have, and generally speaking, assist everyone if they need any kind of support on any of their tasks from time to time. So yeah, building on to what Ms. Nat also said, we have a subject named the entrepreneurial leadership at ALA, which makes ALA kind of unique because we have our own core curriculum, but from the other subjects that are available for all of the students across the world. And within our EL or entrepreneurial leadership subject, we have a design thinking tool that we use in order to create and innovate new solutions for the different challenges that we seek to, generally speaking, create solutions and innovations and solve them during our 2-year mission at ALA. And this takes us to the build model, which is the design thinking tool that I just introduced you to. So the build model consists of 5 different stages. The first one is the B letter. It's for belief. And the belief stage is all about believing and creating and solidifying the confidence that you believe this is an actual issue or an actual challenge that exists either in your community or, generally speaking, as a global challenge. And you also believe that you are willing and able to solve it in a way or another. Then after the B or belief stage, we have the U for understand. And understand is understanding the different aspects or the details of the solution that you're trying to create or the challenge that you're trying to solve, basically. And actually, during today's session, we're going to introduce you to one of our upcoming projects. And as we learned at ALA, we use the build model to create our projects and solutions. And right now, regarding the project that we're going to introduce you to and ask for your help in order to execute it, we are standing in the understand phase. And this session is part of understanding the solution that we're trying to create and understanding the challenge that we're trying to solve. And further understand whether if it's actually needed or not, since we have different experiences and different people from all across the Southern African region and generally speaking, the continent. So that was the build model. And before we go into our first chapter, I would like to hand over to Ibrahim, if you are available to introduce ourselves as the rest of the team. So Ibrahim, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Ismail. Okay, good afternoon, good people. My name is Ibrahim Marcel Silla, and I'm also a student, a year 2 student at African Leadership Academy, and I'm from Ivory Coast. I'll let the floor to Tamer to introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. My name is Tamer, and I'm from Morocco. And I am the marketing and the digital thingies in Earthflow. And we're so glad that you are here, and we're so excited for your interactions, your feedback, and your comments.
Okay, we also have Alakir, who's facing difficulties to join, so she won't be available today. But Alakir is from South Sudan, and she's taking charge of all of our finances, bills, generally speaking, tracking our budget. And also Angel from Cameroon, and she's in charge of the events and the logistical side. So any event that we host, either on campus or outside of campus, any project that requires any kind of logistics, she takes care of getting these difficulties done, basically. So yeah, after this, just to make sure that everyone is sharing the foundational knowledge regarding climate change, I'm just going to brief you on the causes of climate change, generally speaking. Why is climate change a thing, generally speaking? So there's a lot of various causes and a lot of activities that we do as humans that result in this. But there are 2 main things that are like the main contributors to the climate change issue or the climate change crisis. So first, under the title corruption facilitating deforestation. So why corruption and what's deforestation? So first, deforestation is basically cutting trees, mainly that are not supposed to be cut. So if a business is taking over a certain area in a certain forest in a certain country, and they're cutting off these trees excessively, that basically harms the ecosystem, generally speaking, and contributes to certain changes that are not healthy for planet Earth to operate as it should be operating. And how does corruption come into play here? So basically, apart from the basic corruption idea about the countries giving permits in order for these activities to be executed, In some other cases, countries have like a plan or kind of a map for the resources of the country and what should be taking place where, basically. So if we have a city and we have like a map to plan general construction activities on this city. So we have a certain area for residents, we have a certain area for industries and factories and all of this. And generally speaking, agriculture also has its own quota or its own area, and this is why corruption comes into play when deforestation happens excessively, because what happens there is that this map often countries doesn't stick to it as much. So when this happens, deforestation starts to occur basically in an excessive, unhealthy way or an unhealthy manner. And secondly, it's about the fossil fuels and the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal or dream or challenge or whatever. So if admin can help us go to the first slide again. Basically, the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal is a worldwide goal that, generally speaking, stakeholders are trying to stick to, because this is kind of the most sustainable way to minimize the dangers of climate change from where we are right now, which is to make the global warming or the increase in the temperature within the 1.5 goal or range. So it doesn't go beyond that. When global warming starts to reach, for example, 1.8 or 2 degrees Celsius, this intensifies the dangers and intensifies the consequences of climate change that we're going to also discuss further right now. So after this, we're talking a little bit about the consequences of climate change, and we're trying to include some statistics here to be able to understand and imagine how is it affecting, especially the South African region. So because of the causes that we just discussed, there are certain changes that are happening in our ecosystem that are making agriculture different, affecting economies, affecting the water bodies, and so on, etc. Then, generally speaking, all of the factors that form Earth as a planet. So apart from the food inflation reaching its highest level in 3 decades, so for the last 30 years, the food inflation didn't ever reach this level, which is around 30% of food inflation. So that's basically just crazy, and it's putting more and more people under the poverty line. And to build onto this statistic as well, so we can imagine it more in South African perspective or South African context. So in the Southern African region, 27 million people are suffering from hunger currently. Like they're facing hunger in their life and in their situations, generally speaking, financially and whatever, because of the resources that are available, which are getting more and more scarce because of climate change. Among these 27 million people, 20 million of them are just in South Africa. Okay. So when these consequences start to kick regions and kick planet, generally speaking, there are damages that come as consequences of this. So when a flood happens, it can either make a land like you can't use it for agriculture anymore, for example, or also destroy residential areas. So in 2022, the damage total was $9 billion US, which exactly as it's written here, and it's even projected to reach $290 billion. So for you also to imagine how big this number is, a GDP of a country is basically like the total of the amount of money that's circulating into the economy. So consumer spending, government spending, investments, net exports, which is exports minus imports. When you calculate all of this together, it gives you the GDP. It's basically the total amount of money that's circulating into the economy of a country. Okay, and $290 billion US is more than 75% of South Africa's GDP. So if you can imagine all of the money in South Africa in 1 year, then calculate 75% of it, try to imagine it, That's the amount of money we're going to need in order to repair the damages that are projected from loss and damages from consequences of climate change. Lastly, I also want to add something that's a bit visual, which is going to empower us to understand more the consequences of climate change. So if we can go to the map in the next slide. Okay, so if we can see the solid black areas on the map, so we have Saudi Arabia, we have Central Africa and Western Africa mainly, with also some spots in the Eastern African region, right? So these areas right now are considered as areas in which people or humans can't live in normally. That's why are they classified like this, or how is this even calculated, right? So when you calculate the average of a temperature in an area, if it's above 29 degrees Celsius, then this is a very, very, very hot place to live into. To live in. You can't just live in a place that has an average temperature of or exceeding 29 degrees Celsius without having like a suffering lifestyle, generally speaking. And that's the case currently. However, if we can look at the shaded black lines, the shaded areas in black, so we have the northern part of Latin America, we have the center part of Africa from east to west, we have even South Asia and West Asia, so we have UAE, I think Yemen and Saudi Arabia, almost half of this country. So this is a much greater area, right? When this actually happens and these shaded areas have a temperature of an average temperature of above 29 degrees Celsius, it's going to affect 33 billion people. Right now, we're almost 8 billion people, so that's almost half of the current population on Earth. So for half of the population on Earth be living in a place that's classified as unlivable for humans, I think that's enough for you to imagine how disastrous the consequences of climate change can be. So those were just some examples, statistics, visuals for you to understand how is the future looking from where we are standing right now. And after this, we are going to Tamer to tell us more about the solutions that we have right now and how they can be implemented on an individual level. And this is what we're trying to include in our project that we're going to discuss it further with Ibrahim from Cote d'Ivoire. Yeah, for now, that was just foundational information. So you understand better and have a refresher on the causes of climate change and how disastrous it can get.
Hello, everybody. So next, we're talking about the solutions that have been implemented currently in our continent and in different parts of it. So when we talk about how can we change or what impact or like what's the first step that we can do to help the climate change and to be against it, we talk about changing our use of power, of our use of energy, especially moving from fossil energy to renewable energy. So because like many resources in Africa, as it is rich from fossil energies, and many economics on the continent are relying on fossil energy. So when we're moving, we can talk about how are we moving to solar power, that our countries like mine, which is like Morocco and Kenya and also South Africa, have been invested heavily in solar energy. For example, the Nur Ouarzazate solar complex that exists in Morocco, which is one of the largest concentrated solar power plants in this world. We can also talk about the other main renewable energy tools. We can go to the wind power that South Africa and Egypt have developed a large-scale wind farms, such as the Lake Turkana wind power projects in Kenya. And for hydropower, we know that Ethiopia, Grand Basin in Sudan, and other hydropower projects in Uganda and in Zambia, for example, have investments in sustainable energy sources. But when we talk about the circle out of the renewable energy, we're quite so diverse and not only limited. For example, we have climate smart agriculture, as the African continent is a continent that is relying on agriculture in many economies. For example, there is something called in French goutte à goutte, which is in English the drought-resistant crops that research institutions introduce and are developing drought-resistant crop varieties that can withstand the harsher conditions caused by climate change itself. We can also talk about agroforestry, which is integrating trees into agricultural systems, improved soil fertility, reduces erosion, and provide shade so that the impact of the sun is less on the fossil. We can also talk about conservative agriculture, because practices like minimum tillage or crop rotation, cover cropping to enhance soil health, and also water retention in our everyday agriculture. Moving to afforestation and reforestation, there is a huge project called the Great Green Wall Initiative, which is an Africa-led project that aimed to plant a wall of trees across the Sahel region to combat desertification and improve food security, and could also maybe create jobs for people. We also can talk about community-based reforestations that, like countries like Kenya and Ethiopia, have implemented community-based reforestation programs that involve local communities in tree planting and forest management. Another very good approach that I would love to talk to is the water management solutions. For example, we have rainwater harvesting in arid regions. Rainwater harvesting systems are implemented to provide a sustainable water source for agriculture, and also to provide water that people could drink, like drinking water. There's also irrigation programs that are efficient irrigation systems like drip irrigation that are being currently so promoted to conserve water and also improve agricultural productivity. Moving to the fifth point, which is the early warning systems and disaster management, that climate information systems. Countries are currently investing in early warning systems and climate information serving to better prepare for and respond to climate-related disasters like floods, droughts, and storms. Currently in Morocco, in the north region, there is a system like this in the city of Tangier that is just like warning people from these disasters, just like to decrease the consequences that could be negative. There's also like community-based adoptions initiatives that engage local communities in disaster preparedness and resilience building activities. Moving to the sixth point, the sustainable urban development. We currently can see green buildings. There is a growing trend towards constructing energy efficient and environmentally friendly buildings in aerial regions, such as a very good architecture that we can see in these urban areas that consume less power when it comes to the aeration and to the lighting. Also in public transportation, we can see an expanding and improving public transportation networks to reduce emissions from private vehicles. These transportation programs are using electricity and not fossil energy. The seventh and last but not least point is the policy in international corporations. There is nationally determined contributions, NDCs as we call them, but our African countries have developed NDCs under the Paris Agreement to outline their climate action, and the regional corporations as well. For example, the African Union and the regional bodies are promoting cooperation on climate initiatives such as the African Climate Change Fund and many others. So now, while I'm done with like presenting the current solutions that we have actually literally promoted on the country and that we can see and that we can feel proud about, we can move to the limitations and what makes these many multiple actions and steps not efficient enough and not strong enough for us to have food security and to have power security. Why are we still having power outage or like load shedding while we have many resources and too much? So to talk about these limitations, we can talk about how the youth engagement is too much little compared to other countries and other continents. We can talk about how these strategies are not being implemented or like efficient the way it is or like the way we have planned to have them. And by then I'm going to give the speech to Ismail, I think, or Ibrahim, to talk about the solutions that are currently being implemented for like tackling these barriers and overcoming these limitations. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so first, before handing over to Ibrahim to pursue with introducing the project that we require your assistance on, I want to further elaborate on the limitations that we have in the African context. So first, generally speaking, responding to climate change requires resources, right? And I think all of us are very, very confident that Africa is the wealthiest continent on Earth. However, due to our vulnerability, because we don't contribute that much in terms of emissions to the climate crisis, generally speaking, we like the total of our emissions is 4% or less than the total emissions that are causing this crisis. So we have resources as an African continent. We're wealthy as an African continent, but the resources that are required to respond to a crisis that we didn't contribute much to, there are some constraints that are limiting us from effectively responding to climate change as an environmental crisis. Other than that, I think some of you are aware of the NDCs, or the nationally determined contributions. So the UNFCCC, or the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or you can just simply describe it as the Climate Change Agency within the United Nations. They kind of require countries to write plans regarding how are these countries responding to the climate change crisis within the next 5 years. Okay, so these NDCs require somehow enormous budgets to be actually implemented, even though the plan itself, in terms of execution, it works. But for us to imagine this more and understand this more from an African context, we have more than 45, nearly 50 NDCs from the African countries. However, we have only 12% of the budget to implement them. So if we're talking about the total budget that's being spent within responding to climate change on the African continent particularly, it represents only 12% of the needed budget in order to implement all of these NDCs and to actually get across this challenge from the African context. Also, apart from this, climate justice, generally speaking, and legislation, generally speaking, also takes a lot of time. Passing policies is very, very, very bureaucratic, especially from the UNFCCC. It's not that easy. And apart from that as well, passing policies within the UNFCCC is not always looking after the welfare of Earth as a planet, right? Politics come into play. A lot of politics come into play, and fossil fuels, which are the main contributor to this, are at the end of the day a huge business, and massive countries are making a lot of money out of this. So yeah, legislation is very, very hard, combined with resources constraints, the complicated NDCs and their massive budgets. All of this just comes into the play of making responding to climate change that hard and that limiting, basically. So from there, we can either go into an engage part or handing over to Ibrahim to introduce our project. So Ibrahim, the floor is yours, whether you want to engage or give more information about the project that we're planning to execute throughout the next 4 months. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Good people, now we'll go to the icebreaker before the engagement. We can first go to the icebreaker, and I will let Miss Nat continue with the icebreaker. After the icebreaker, we'll go to the first engage station where we will all have this floor to ask your question regarding the presentation just made. And we'll also be asking you questions and see how you react and how you understood the information that we just shared with you guys. So in 5 minutes, we'll just have the icebreaker. We'll just finish.
Ibrahim, I think we can also launch some sort of a discussion. So we reviewed the foundations of causes of climate change, limitations, different solutions that are applied in different African countries with different scales. So if we can launch a discussion from here, generally speaking, from the context of our countries right now, how do you think within the resources that we have, within the situation that we currently have, how should we respond to the climate crisis, basically? A continent that's not contributing much and having all of the consequences. Any thoughts? You can unmute yourself and just say whatever you have on your mind regarding responding to the climate crisis from the African perspective, basically. Okay, let me respond to some of these chats till someone raises their hand. Okay, so someone says youth participation on our continent really does need a lot of support. It's a cause for concern, starting with climate education. So, okay, the climate education is actually the core of our project that Ibrahim is going to talk about in a bit. So yeah, it's making me more and more excited to start hearing your thoughts about what we have to offer or work on within the next 4 months. And regarding the youth participation, yeah, unfortunately, okay, so the first kind of official youth delegation that was sent apart from the country's delegations or like the delegations that are coming from different ministries of foreign affairs. It was very, very recent in the, not last year, the year before in COP27. That was the first Youth and Children official delegation. So yeah, obviously it takes a lot of time in order to create these delegations and train the youth in order to take part on the negotiations table, because as I just said, I've been there, and honestly, it's mainly politics. Unfortunately, there's no much in there about the actual welfare of Earth, as much as it's political negotiations between countries. But yeah, I believe it's coming. It's coming someday. It's not very far. We just need a lot of training, and we need to accelerate the process as youth, generally speaking. Good points on the complexities of legislation and climate policy. Thank you so much, Mudihi. I wasn't aware about the bureaucracy in passing policies at the UNFCCC. That is a huge disappointment and setback. Yeah, and even if we have at the end of each conference some sort of a document or an action plan, if you actually downloaded these documents and read them closely and carefully, the actual clear actions that are signed after these conferences are very, 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 very minimal, I guess. Or yeah, that might be my own experience. But yeah, unfortunately, actions, even on the official documents that often get produced very, very easily in conferences, within 2 weeks, you have an action plan from, I don't know, more than 100 countries. If you closely read these documents, they're not always having the intensity of actions that are needed, within the time limit that they are needed in. So yeah, if anyone has any other messages or comments, maybe you can take 2 more comments before Ibrahim starts or the icebreaker starts. Your information has been quite informative and enlightening in a global way, for we are limited into knowledge within our geographical confines. We definitely need more young people to be involved. We need to find ways to get them involved. Thank you so much, Pinky. I remember that you were from Durban. So yeah, thank you so much. And I think we should connect to each other. This is also part of what we're going to discuss by the end of this session. Because yeah, we don't want to lose the power that we might have started to create. Marwan, I see that you have your hand raised, so that might be the last question, comment.
Yes, thank you so much, Ismail. Just this is an answer to your question, which is how do we overcome the climate crisis, or from an Egyptian perspective. I'm just saying that we are in a serious climate crisis. Temperatures are skyrocketing here way beyond normal, and this is just not a hot weather. It's a sign that something is terribly wrong, and I think it's all about bad leadership, and we need leaders that smell the rocketing heat. And I would say that one of the biggest problems is that our trees are disappearing, which is a point that you mentioned, and they are being cut down for roads, buildings, and even for profit, which is crazy. And these trees are just our planet, natural air conditioners, which cleans our air and protect our soil. But short-sighted decisions are turning our green spaces into, concrete jungles. And I would mention also why they are doing this. So it's often about money, which is also about building new roads or buildings which can be profitable. And some people might even sell the wood illegally. But they are sacrificing our future for short-term gains. And I think it's all about leadership, and we need leaders who care about people and the planet and not just their wallets. And we need to plant millions of trees. And you mentioned that that would cost a lot, but it's really essential to protect our forests and hold those responsible for deforestation and accountable. And it's time to change all of this. And thank you so much for your presentation. It just made me much more aware on how the planet is going.
Thanks so much,
Okay,
Marwan.
thank you so much. You can go, Ismail.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'm glad that I'm seeing much interaction on the chat. I think we can take this opportunity and engage more by the end of the session. After we finish, we can personally, I'm willing to stay here for like stretching the session in order to respond to questions, discuss the different opinions that are being expressed. So yeah, after this, Ibrahim, let me hand it over to you, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Could you please have this next slide, please? For the first engaged session, our question for you guys is what's the contribution of youth toward tackling this issue? This is a discussion. Everybody can raise his hand, or any member of Airflow can also popcorn anyone in the chat. So please, guys, be interactive. The first question is, what is the contribution of youth towards tackling this issue? You had the first presentation by Ismail where he talked about the causes of climate change. Then he talked about the consequences in Africa. Temer also talked about the current solution implemented, and we try to give you an overview about the limitations. But in each of those presentations and each of those chapters, my question is, what is the contribution of youth? Is the African youth the most polluting, let's say, most polluting group of people in Africa? Are they the one implementing the solution, or are those people ideas and thoughts even taken into account while drafting solutions? This is a total discussion, and this is a total engaging section. Feel free to raise your hand, and we'll be more than happy to hear from you guys. So we're waiting for your answers and your contribution in the group chat, and also you can just raise your hands.
So right now, everyone, if anyone needs to unmute themselves, you can you can use your voice and be auditory. Don't just stick to the chat. Sir Clinton, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I'm Clinton from Nigeria. And I would just, to answer the question, what is the role of youth, in this whole situation? I want to say, even from your presentation, we can see that Africa is contributing not even more than 4% of the total global emissions. And I think that's not so bad. But the youth have a lot of role to play, in building a sustainable ecosystem. And I think the youth can also learn how to build networks, networks across your regions, network, across your sector, to raise more awareness and, bring that sense of responsibility, among young people, because that is going to drive innovations, and that's going to also drive the work itself. If we're talking of planting trees, the youth are more, likely to want to plant trees that they're going to use in the next 30, 40 years time than, people who are much older. So I think the youth have a lot of role to play. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Clinton. And yeah, like you don't need to raise your hand and wait for someone to hand over the floor. You can either popcorn yourselves, or if no one is speaking at the moment and you want to go ahead and just unmute yourselves, it's fine. It's purely a discussion between all of us for the next around 5 minutes. So Lorato, go ahead.
Wait, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes,
thank you. So yeah, I want to respond to what am I doing currently as an individual before I can speak on my organization. Personally, I'm involved with NPOs across the township that I live in within Pretoria, South Africa. And it's not a huge contribution, but I have recognized some change, especially within the attitudes, because that's where it starts. So I've noticed that the communities that we live in aren't necessarily informed about, you come to them and you tell them climate change, they will look at you blankly. So I think what I'm doing is really just trying to advocate for the education of climate first, because before they can become policy makers, they need to first understand the language. So that's what I'm currently doing. And we have a project as the Global Shapers 20 Hub that we're involved in, and we were basically teaching high schoolers about how to initiate your own garden, making it fashionable, making it more common and popular, and not just like a side idea, because the climate is changing, you have to adapt. So having food gardens should be a normalized thing. Yeah, something like that. It's not a huge contribution like going out to protest fuel and all of that, but just getting them educated about climate change from a primary level, grassroots level. That for me is big.
Okay, thank you so much, Lorato. So does anyone have any other thoughts? I agree the curriculum does need to change. I think this is a conversation on the children and them getting like introduced to the topic of the climate crisis earlier. So if anyone is willing to bring these conversations onto the floor, unmute themselves, we are all ears. We would be really, really, really happy and appreciating this initiative to share with us. Okay, so some people might be unable to unmute themselves, so maybe allow me to bring some of these thoughts. So if anyone wants to discuss them further, after I say them, you can unmute yourselves. Okay, I just want to get to the first part of the thread. Yeah, so Pinky was saying part of the problem is that when children are not exposed to the subject early enough, unless they make a later choice to connect with the subject, there's nothing to do. So it's a matter of awareness. This is what I'm understanding from this comment or this message. Okay, people are raising their hands. So Emmanuel, please go.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, I want to
Yes, we
answer
can.
the question I'm Emmanuel Anthony from Sokoine University in Tanzania. It's the best discussion that I like to share some views on what is the contribution of youth toward tackling issues. We have a big
Emmanuel,
law. We
I'm
have
so
a
sorry
big
to
law to
interrupt
make
you, but if it's possible to get closer to the mic or raise your voice a little bit, that would be helpful. If it's not, we can hear you. It's fine.
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, we have a big law on providing awareness, education to people, education to farmers. I will make clarification based on my field of study, because we understand now we have a blue economy revolution. Revolution depends on the climate, on the climate. The climate is the climate has been distracted, or the climate has been changing. So the practice of blue economy, it is very difficult. So we push awareness. We need to make some decisions. We need to have some regional integration or program mechanisms, climate mitigations, because I understand that blue economies has been affected plastics. These plastics, finally they end on the oceans. When they end on the ocean, they decay, and sometimes they destroy the biodiversity, and they destroy the habitat of some aquatic species. So we have a big law at the youth. We understand that we are the change makers. We are the next generation. So we need to provide awareness much to peoples, to farmers, and to some innovations. Sometimes the government needs some programs like industrialization without considering the climate change. So we have the chance to address the government, not only to make awareness to farmers. Also, we need to address the government so that it can implement some initiative which have low impact to the climate. Example, we can use greenhouse farming systems, or we can shift our energy sources from firewoods to avoid the deforestation, or we can implement things like hydroelectric powers. So we can invest in hydroelectric power, like in Tanzania, the initiation of a big project. Yes, I don't think I don't remember its name, but we have a project. We have a project that we produce electricity from waters. Yes, it was called the Boala Mwalimu Nyerere. Yes, it was Boala Mwalimu Nyerere project. So it is a big initiative that the government has taken, and I wish to see most of you were involved in making discussion on how are we going to combat the climatic change. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. I'm happy that someone from Tanzania is joining us. Just a side fun fact, my roommate at the throughout the last year was Tanzanian. So yeah, that was just a random fun fact that I felt like I want to share. Okay, just building onto what you were saying regarding the warning systems. So only 40% of the African population right now has early warning systems for extreme climate events, generally speaking. So around 60% of the African population, which means more than half of African people, they don't know that there's, for example, a flood or a drought coming unless it's actually happening or occurring right now, which is also a disaster because they don't get much time or an opportunity to prepare and face these extreme weather conditions that you're going to be facing. Lastly, before handing over to Mudihi for a last contribution, I also want to build onto what Pinky said regarding the children not being introduced to the topic that early. From my perspective, I believe this is more or less the same issue with stakeholders prioritizing short-term gainings, as Marwan said. So, for example, when these children are not introduced to the topic early enough, this is why when they are youth, they can't go into a negotiations conference and negotiate for their own well-being as a young generation, right? And this is why we need to rely on older people to take decisions that are affecting the future of the planet in a time that they won't be even living, most likely, because these decisions kind of decide how the future is going to look like. And these people, their average age is about 50. So yeah, just elaborating on the ugly truth, I guess, and building onto what Pinky, Emmanuel, and Marwan said. Isile, if you can still hear me, you can unmute yourself for a last contribution. And after this, unfortunately, we need to move on to Ibrahim. But we will have some time after the session if anyone is still willing to stay.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for your presentations. So I just also wanted to talk about the work that our organization has done in terms of contributing to the fight against climate change. So I work for Climate Action Network South Africa, and the work that we primarily do there is that we coordinate civil society efforts in driving effective climate action in South Africa. And we also engage with community-based organizations. And what we do there is that we ensure that they're included in policy discussions and decisions on climate change, and also advocate for their perspectives to also be and also amplify their voices in the space, more especially as they are the people who you find out that most of the times have first-hand experiences in the worst effects of climate change. And also they come from marginalized communities, so we capacitate them in that manner. And also another thing that I have been involved in ever since I started my internship at SACAN was being part of the CAP project, which is the Climate Ambition to Accountability project. And CAP also does, what CAP also does is that it also builds like a strong civil society community to also support the climate ambition. It also works with young people to ensure that they are able to engage strongly in climate action and also policy processes. And we recently were in KZN in Durban, where we hosted an intergenerational dialogue that was focusing on fostering future-ready youth for a just transition. And the dialogue was just to bridge a gap between the development of a just transition policy and youth participation in the implementation of that. And yeah, just to ensure that we also develop a policy framework dialogue that also promotes social justice and also fosters the creation of decent jobs for young people in the space. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, this was exactly what Emmanuel was talking about regarding approaching the government. So as one of the examples you just mentioned regarding the intergenerational conversation or the intergenerational
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Ibrahim, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we think Ismail just freezed, but it's purely fine. We'll proceed with the next part of the next part of the presentation, presenting our problem. So could you please have the next slide, please? Perfect. Okay, as Ismail said, we are all students at the African Leadership Academy, the Airflow team. And in one of our class called Entrepreneurial Leadership, we study something called the build model. It told you in the introduction that B stands for believe, U for understand, I for invent, L for listen, and D for deliver. With Airflow, we're currently at the understand phase. We first believe that there is an issue within Africa, and we are more than capable of dealing with such an issue. What was this problem? We think, first of all, the youth in Africa, the African youth, is not fully taken into account when it comes to climate change. That was the first observation we made, and from our research, we discovered that in almost all the solutions implemented by the government, the African youth wasn't taken into account. So we decided, as our project for our student enterprise, to raise awareness among the African youth, but in a pretty different way. We decided to make a guide that will be in, let's say, two parts. That will be kind of a book, but that book will be split up in two parts. The first part will be understanding climate change. It will be kind of the same structure as we did during this presentation. We'll go through understanding climate change in the modern world. We mean after the Industrial Revolution. We'll go with the causes in Africa, in the world. We'll also explore the consequences within an African context and overseas. We'll also look at the current solution implemented in Africa and the solution implemented overseas, but we'll have a focus on Africa. And we will take a real close look at the limitation in Africa. Unfortunately, we couldn't have that presentation, like he couldn't attend the call. But in the book, we will have a specific part dedicated to understanding the limitation of such solution in an African context. Because from our research, we discovered that some of the solutions implemented in Africa are just taken from overseas and implemented directly in Africa. But we think it might not be, those solutions might not be relevant in an African context. And all those factors might depend on, first, let's say the environment we are living in, and the mentalities and the way people live. Because in the Western world, it has broadly been said that people should start recycling the water bottle and all those things. But in Africa, we already do such things. In most of our African households, the water bottle are just recycled, and we use those previously bought bottles to put water and just conserve them in the fridge. So those solutions might not be relevant in an African context, and all of these parts will be assessed in the book. Can you please have the next slide? Okay, perfect. Next slide, please. Yes, and all of these information will be given under the broad term understanding climate change. After this, the second theme of the book will be brainstorming solutions, and this part will be the main focus of our initiative. Within that theme, brainstorming solution, we will guide the people, let's say our target, our audience, to really think for themselves, really have their own opinion about climate change, really have their own opinion about what does Africa suffer the most from climate change, while it's the continent that produces the less amount of CO2 that pollutes the less. We will explore everything in that brainstorming solution, and we'll help people have their own opinion, have their own ideas, and how can they be engaged in drafting solution for tackling climate change in Africa. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, brainstorming solution will have several parts in brainstorming solution. The first step will be tackling change on other continents. In order to understand what Africa did wrong or what can Africa do to better the situation over here, we also have to understand what did people do. We'll take a closer look at how people overseas deal with climate change, how people in Japan deal with climate change, how people in China deal with climate change, which is one of the countries that pollutes the most. We'll look at it on every single aspect. We'll also go back in time and see how have people been dealing with climate change since the Industrial Revolution in England. We'll take a closer look at all those parts. And then we'll assess the relevance of current measures in Africa. We will investigate and give you in our book not all, but the main measures taken in Africa to counter climate change and the effects of climate change and the main consequences of climate change. Then we'll go to the relevance of both African and overseas measures in Africa. Are all the measures taken in Africa and overseas relevant in Africa, in an African context, or will they be able, will the youth and will African people be able to take such solution and implement it directly in Africa without shifting them or without just being empowering without just taking the solutions, take a closer look at the solutions, studying them and reshaping them so that those solutions become a better fit for an African context. The last two parts will be the most important parts in the whole book, because this will be the guided thinking through the issue. In this particular part, we'll be asking a series of questions that people should be able to understand from after hearing and after reading our book. The guided thinking through the issue will be a series of questions, and people will be, if they really engage with the book intentionally, be able to answer and make their own opinion about climate change. So we're actually working with ELA and the Entrepreneurial Leadership Department to make this part really a game changer. And we hope that this specific part will help people better understand climate change and how can they tackle the consequences of climate change in Africa. After it to just be the conclusion and the opinion building of the book. So after reading our book, we genuinely hope that people reach out to us with their feedback, with what they think, with what they understood after reading our book, and what do they think will be best for Africa to do. Should Africa invest in its youth so that they can tackle climate change? Should Africa just copy the measures taken overseas? We just want all of the readers to send us the feedback and everything they thought after reading our book. Next slide, please. So this virtual echo session was just kind of an introduction to a book. And we really hope that after this particular presentation, you can give us feedback and really tell us what do you guys think about our book, about our initiative, and how can we better it and improve our current actions. I'll leave the floor to Ismail.
Yeah, thank you, Ibrahim. I'm going to hand it over to you now. I just want to follow up or contribute with a small comment or small clarifications. So basically, right now is the time when we need you to help us, basically. So throughout this session, we provided some knowledge, some information. If that was too basic for you and you're more of an topic expert, then now we need your help. So this guide, as Ibrahim said, it's a book, but just to make it more clear, it's not like a 300-page book. It's just like a guide that's supposed to help you maybe navigate the climate change scene, generally speaking, but also try to apply the African solutions that we have right now on an individual level after understanding, as Ibrahim said, how our different countries or different regions or different environments are responding to this crisis. So right now we need you to ask questions, answer other people's questions, answer our questions, and we want ourselves also to ask. We just want a discussion. We want a discussion from all of you so we can understand whether this is an actual problem and if the solution was already applied in other global contexts, if any other entity created similar guides before to help people understand what's climate change, different abbreviation and the language, as also one of our participants said. How can we make ours different, and how can we make ours more focused on Africa? Yeah, a lot of questions, and we need a lot of answers, and we need a lot of questions from you as well. So, Ibrahim, back to you. Okay, Ibrahim, I hope you're still with us. You're not facing any connection difficulties or anything. But for now, we're just going to have this discussion, as I said. If any member wants to facilitate it, you can do so. But generally speaking, let's first respond to this question: what can we improve, and how can we execute this to be focused and more efficient on our African perspective? Anyone? Yeah, okay. Go ahead, unmute yourselves and go ahead. Maybe Arif first, then Mr. Clinton from Nigeria.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be in this discussion. And I'm Arif Kinasha from Tanzania. I hope I'm audible enough. Yes, I'm the executive director of an NGO called Green Masai Foundation. And we also work on promoting climate change information and providing a platform for all those who wish to provide more insights regarding the climate change, because it is true that most of the people are not really aware of the problem itself, and it will be difficult to have these people adapt to new solutions. So regarding your request, for example, in our website, we provide a platform called the Bookshelf, where we share all the context regarding the climate change and solutions and knowledge sharing. So if at any point in time you're ready to publish and distribute your content and information, we do also speak to other organizations and create synergies regarding this information sharing. So we could also receive your formal request through our emails, and I'll share the website through the chat, and we can help in advocating more regarding this context.
Mr. Clinton,
Thank
you can go ahead. As I said, guys, feel free, just unmute yourselves, and as if we're discussing it in an old people classroom kind of. Yeah,
Okay.
classroom.
Yes, can I come in? Yeah, am I audible enough?
Yes,
you are. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. So I think this is interesting, and the questions that are coming up are also important, for us to understand how we can also take actions as African people. For so long, this conversation of how we can prefer African solutions to African problem is really very important. First of all, I would like to say that it's important for us to not discard or throw away indigenous knowledge. Across Africa, we have indigenous people, local communities that have been protecting, our rainforest and all of this biodiversity. So we also need to synchronize our knowledge with what they're doing, so that while we are trying to seek for solutions, we're also using our local knowledge to be able to implement it. So, and also something else I would like to say is that, we need to keep sharing our stories. We need to keep telling our stories in the African way. And that's also what initiated my organization, Afro Climate Vanguard. So we are a media platform. We're trying to tell African stories, trying to amplify the voices of African climate champions, shining a light on the work people are doing that are not really getting heard. That's how we can also find solutions, because someone can come up with some kind of ideas and they don't really have access to tell their stories for a global audience or a large audience. So I think this will help for us to get the kind of solutions we need.
Okay, if there is anyone else who wants to contribute and unmute themselves. I'm seeing a lot of comments, useful comments, meaningful comments on the chat. So if anyone is willing to bring this to the floor, go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible enough?
Yes, Edward, you are.
Yeah, I'm saying that what we have to do now, we should, to my perception, according to what we're experiencing in Malawi, the educators, they put the environmental conservation measures in the syllabuses, but to our surprise, they are not implemented. The teachers and even the learners, they don't apply what they learned from classes. For example, where I am right now, the people that are cultivating for new plants, for new farms every year, which means they are degrading soil as well as the trees that are distracted, and they also burn the trees to have ashes. That is, they believe that they provide the nutrients for rice production. And to my surprise, the agricultural extension workers, they're also the one being involved in such activities, which means to the local people, they can't learn from them. So there's need to emphasize first to the one to the torch bearers, especially the one like civil servants, that they should practice what they learn and what they are do, so that the local people, they should emulate from them. Otherwise, if we're just saying to the local people that we should not do this and do that, but our actions speak louder than words. So my suggestion is we have first to reach out to the one who are reading the higher positions in the country, so that their actions should display a good example to the local people. And to the part of environmental degradation, they are the ones buying charcoal from local people, which means local people will always burn trees in order to sell charcoals to them. If they can stop buying charcoals, which means the local people cannot burn trees. Hello?
Yes, Mr. Edward, we've been listening to you. Mr. Clinton, I don't know if this is an old raised hand or you still want to contribute with something, but if you still want to say something, go ahead.
No, I'm done on that.
Yes, Edward, thank you for your contributions. Arif Kinasha, go ahead. Again, just unmute yourselves and start talking. That's fine, and it's going to accelerate our discussion even more.
Thank you again. So regarding the context of the information that you're preparing, if you need more insights on how to construct a very useful information that can be to at least catalyze some kind of productivity, towards different geographical confinement, like Tanzania, for example. I think I know Mr. Clinton from one of the WhatsApp communities, and it's one of the initiatives that we truly benefit from. So maybe if we could share, or somehow we can get linked and connected, then we can receive some of your information and deliver it to our teams, and then they can help in constructing uh, graphically designed posters and magazines, or something useful that can be used and interactive. Also something that can be more convincing to the readers and viewers of the information. So the initiative that could actually help in constructing more, if you need more help in constructing the information, we can somehow organize how to get your community, let's say your WhatsApp community or something, then we can obtain information from there. We can obtain what kind of support you need and what kind of information you need to be worked on. We have researchers, we have advanced teams that can work on processing information and delivering results. So that can be used as well as one of the initiatives to create a much larger network that can deliver useful content and information, if you would like.
Absolutely. That's actually a very good idea, because also when we're doing our guide, we're looking for communities just like to maybe take the initiative or take the action in their local communities. We're looking for engagement from all the continents. We're looking for people who are excited to give us feedback, and people that we are actually passionate about giving them the information and interact with it so that we can make an impact. Thank you so much for the information, and we will absolutely reach out to you.
Thanks so much, Arab, for providing these resources and this potential support. Unfortunately, we're technically over time, even though all of us are still willing to, the majority of us are still willing to stay. I don't want to assume and make assumptions. I'm going to share the credentials for Earthflow's Instagram page. It's brand new. So if we later on decided on having a communication channel to support each other's on bringing this idea to life while we're still executing it as Earthflow, probably it will be shared through this page. So let me send it right now. And also I'll share the Earthflow email address. So if anyone is willing to send us an email or communicate with us, I think that might be more professional if it's required. So I just sent right now the username for our Instagram page and the link for our Instagram and our email. I might need to ask another question before we need to wrap this up because of time. But if we're following on what we were saying regarding children and getting to be introduced to these topics earlier, imagine yourself when you were back in high school or even preparatory education. If you had such a guide back then, what's the information that you would be willing to read if it's available in there? Yeah, generally speaking, because we might explain a bit too much or be very basic. So imagine yourself as a high school student. What do you need? And if anyone has any idea after hearing this prompt, unmute yourself, write it in the chat. Go ahead. If you are a high school student, what would you need to get from this guide? Because also we need to take in consideration the availability of information these days. So while taking in consideration the amount of knowledge that's most likely shared for a high school student, while also what's accessible, what else would you find it helpful through this guide? Mudiehi, you can go ahead, then Saseko.
Okay, I'll actually go after Sasi. Thanks, Isma.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Sasa Komalobola with Global Table Study Hub. I'm studying civil engineering at a college. I just wanted to ask, are you guys going to include farming? And if yes, please speak more about crop rotation and not monoculture. How do you plant or how do you farm with including cabbages, carrots, and onions in one place? How would you do that? How would you go about that? You can just speak about farming, helping with the earth.
Everyone, again, feel free to unmute yourselves and just contribute as if it was a discussion in your university class. So yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I think on a basic level, I would need to know as a high schooler, what are the pathways? So if I would like to partake in climate activism, how do I do that exactly? Who do I join? You know, where do I find them? And then also on a very basic level, in order for us to make this connection, right, to youth as well, that might not necessarily, as somebody has mentioned before, be able to articulate the challenges that they're already facing due to climate change, I would want to see or understand how this affects me. So what does this mean for me as a high school student, wherever I am in sub-Saharan Africa? All right. Thank you, Isma.
Yeah, I think that's enlightening. Yeah, we're taking notes on everything that's being said. Also, this session is recorded, so I'm sure we're going to watch it more than one time, so we can extract every opinion, every piece of feedback that was introduced. Thank you, Saseko. Thank you, Mudehi, so much for these comments. They're absolutely helpful. Before wrapping up, handing over to Maria Natalia Sekombe. Does anyone have any other last burning thought that they want to share, either through the chat or on the floor? Go ahead. If not, Miss Maria, the floor is yours.
Hello. Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone for your contributions, your engagement. The chat has been active, and I'm very excited, as I've been excited to see what everyone has to share and all the comments that have been shared, the suggestions, the feedback, and also our thoughts on how we as young people should think about tackling the climate crisis within the African context. Thank you everyone for making the time. Thank you also for sharing your details. We will stay in touch as the team continues to work on basically formulating and designing what this handbook would look like, what the solution would look like, and how it can be more effective for younger people, so that younger Africans, so they can understand how they're being impacted, and what role they can play and how they can engage in different spaces, whether it's from a policy point of view, or a climate justice point of view, or innovation point of view. But we would love to see more young Africans have a better understanding of the role that they play and the role they can play, and how climate crisis will definitely be affecting them in years to come. Thank you everyone again for joining us today. Please do feel free to continue engaging with Earthflow, LCOY South Africa on the social media channels. There's more to come and more engagement to come further in the year. I'm also excited to see what Earthflow will be able to share with you all. Yeah, and for me right now, I'm just very grateful for everyone and your attendance and for your engagement. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I believe it has been a fruitful session. And if you'd like me to share the recording with you, I can do so. We can do so. I don't want to just flash with everyone, send it to everyone in case you don't want it, but I think we will share the recording for those who would, the link to the recording for those who would love to access it later. Yeah, and thank you so much. I don't know if there's anyone who would like to share any final comments. I also don't want to keep us on the call any further. Because yes, I know, again, it is a Monday, and I'm glad that everyone was able to avail themselves this evening. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I guess that is it. Thank you so much. I will end the call and stop sharing my screen. Yeah, thank you so much again for joining.
Thank you, bye.
Goodbye.